Hi guys. Once again, I am Ryan Reese. My gaming tag is Intoxicated. I am part of Intoxicated Meta, which is just kind of like a little title that I designed for my videos. However, this video in particular, as you saw in the title, is known as concentrations, spells, and what exactly is concentration. It's not going to be a super long video because there's not a ton to discuss, but concentration is very important, and I feel it's something that most DMs and players tend to mess up or forget. And we're going to go over a couple different things as far as about concentration and what you can do to remember it more and make it easier. First thing we're going to discuss, though, is what is a concentration spell? Okay, concentration spells, and what are they? So going over concentration. Concentration is a mechanic in Magic that I actually like. I think it's awesome. It's forgotten a lot, and it's not the easiest thing to remember, especially for a DM when they have so many other things to focus on, especially in big fights. But concentration spells are a type of magic that is generally channeling or more powerful than other types, or not like a single target, bam, you're done. And it requires the caster to maintain concentration on that spell while basically having to focus just on that concentration spell. Now, most people are like, well, I want to be able to cast other spells. Well, you can. You can cast cantrips, you can cast other single target non-concentration spells on things, and we'll go over a lot of different elements of concentration and what they are, but the first primary topic was just to talk about what concentration is, and it's something that you just have to maintain for the duration of a spell, and if you lose it, then it basically just falls. And we're going to go over next on what are the ways to lose concentration on a concentration spell. Ways you can lose concentration. So there are primary ways to lose concentration, and then we'll also slightly discuss how to basically what's required to try to succeed not losing concentration. So the ways to lose concentration: if you take damage of any kind, you have to basically maintain your concentration based off of that damage. So as an example, if you and the way the formula works, if you were concentrating on like a banishment spell and somebody hit you for 20 points of fire damage, of course you would add any kind of resistances or whatever the circumstance may be first to determine the amount of damage taken. But then what you have to do is you have to divide the damage taken by 2, and then whatever is higher, that number or 10, you have to save against. And the way you do that is you roll a d20, and you add your Constitution saving modifier against that actual spell. So in that case, somebody hit you for 20 damage, half of that is 10, so you'd be fine. If somebody hit you for 26 damage, half of that is 13, you would have to save against 13 since that was higher than 10. If it was lower than 10, it's always 10. And basically you roll the dice, you take that number, you add your saving throw modifier for concentration against that, and if you meet or succeed the number, you maintain concentration. Another way to lose concentration is to become incapacitated or go unconscious, which makes sense. And then you just lose concentration. There's no save against going unconscious. If you go unconscious, you lose concentration. If you get restrained and you fail whatever it is you're doing against getting restrained, athletics saving throw, whatever the circumstance, resisting the spell's DC, then you would become incapacitated, you would lose concentration. Another way to lose concentration, which is typically, I would say, probably the least common, just because a player knows they need to maintain concentration, is if you cast another concentration spell, then you have to drop concentration on the other one, unless you have a feat or something that says otherwise. And those are basically the primary ways that you can lose concentration. So remember that. And just try to remember them, stay remembering them the best you can. The next thing we're going to move on to is ways that you can better maintain concentration. Okay, and ways to improve concentration. So there's not a ton of them as far as like physically improving it. A feat that is actually in the player's handbook and legal is Warcaster. And Warcaster does a couple different things besides just the primary that we're going to talk about. It does allow you to cast a single target spell against an opponent as a attack of opportunity. So if somebody leaves your combat range, you can basically, instead of just whacking them like people normally do with attack of opportunities, you can actually cast a single target spell, which is pretty nice. So another thing that Warcaster does is it gives you advantage on concentration checks, which is huge. So, and that's a way to improve it. So, for instance, if somebody was to hit you for 30 points of damage and the DC was 15, you would roll 2 d20s, add your Constitution saving throw against both of them, and whichever d20 is higher, you would take that number. So it improves your odds like exponentially on whether or not you're going to succeed in that actual save. Another thing that Warcaster does is it allows you to cast spells without having you can basically wield a weapon and cast spells, which normally you have to have a free hand to cast spells. But it allows you, or free hands to cast spells, but it allows you to basically hold like a staff, like Gandalf style, and you shall not pass, and cast spells at the same time. So it's pretty damn powerful as far as a feat goes. Other ways would be magical items that you can find. There is a known magical item out there. I can't recall the name of it at the moment, but it is a necklace that basically allows you to concentrate on 2 spells at once. I think there's also another feat that lets you do that, but that's generally not a feat that most DMs allow just because it's broken, to be able to concentrate on 2 spells at once. Concentration is designed for a very specific mechanic, and it's good that they have that because it's basically the whole point of it is to balance out more powerful spells. So that is basically the primary ways to be able to improve concentration. Other things you can do just to be able to maintain it is to try to, especially if you're a spellcaster, you should already be doing this, but try to stay out of close combat and try to stay out of other circumstances that might help, like drop concentration, remember your concentration spells. Which is what we're going to go on in the next video, or the next topic that we're going to move on to is ways to remember concentration. All right, moving on to the last topic of this particular video, ways to remember concentration. So besides just being conscientious about the fact that you have one, or having a DM that is good at remembering, I do my best, but sometimes it is hard to keep track of it. Ways that you can do, or things that you can do to better remember it. One of the things that I got from Matthew Mercer on Critical Role, which is just genius, are these little bottle rings that you just get off of any kind of drink. You've probably thrown thousands of these away and not even realized it. But they can be a little bit of a pain in the ass to pull off the bottle, but I just use pliers and kind of wiggle them off. But you have, different colors and different things like that. And what I primarily do is, based on the spell, I have different ways to remember. Like, I have somebody who casts Hex a lot because it's an amazing spell, but it does require concentration. So I use the black one for Hex. If somebody gets frozen or something like that, I usually use the blue one. If somebody's maintaining concentration on something, I usually use the white one. Or for paralyzed, I use the white one. For poisoned, I use the green one. on fire, I use the red one. It really just depends. But I also try to mark next to them on the initiative sheet, which is another good way to remember that they are concentrating. Just put a big CON next to them on the initiative sheet, and then just scribble it out when they drop it or lose it. And then you can also go back through and just re-add another one next to it if they do it again. Another thing you can do is get like little of those like polished rock things like that people use for like counters, and you can just place it over a C on the person's initiative sheet if you have like a standard initiative sheet, and that lets you know that they're concentrating on something, and get different colored ones if you want to color coordinate it. So those are a couple different ways of remembering it. For players, D&D Beyond can help you with that. It lists all, which is an amazing app. It lists all the spells. It tells you which ones are concentration. It lets you know if you are casting the spell that you are using concentration. I think it even has something in there about basically explaining how to lose concentration and everything, so it's very helpful. But the primary thing that I wanted to discuss was the rings, because these things are just amazing for that, and they go over most standard models. If you're doing Theater of Mind, the only other things that you can really do are the paper with the stones on them, or putting CON on the initiative sheet, however you keep track of initiative. I found that the easiest way to do it is, again, the way Matthew Mercer does it, with just asking people 20 plus, then 19 to 14, and go down the list. Because what people want to do is they want to roll dice and be like, 18! And you're like, okay, give me a second, because you have to write down all the monsters, you have to write down all the details, then you have to ask, and if you don't put them in the right order, you have to erase and put them back on there. I have made other standard initiative tracking sheets for that kind of stuff to help me remember things, but you also don't want to put so much time into it that you're delaying the game. Because that's, you want to keep D&D running smoothly. However, those are the best ways I've found with my experience to remembering concentration. You just got to try to do your best as a DM. We have a lot to worry about, and as a player, you just got to remember. You still have things you have to remember, but you have a lot less than a DM. So just remember that's the best ways to do it. If you have any other ways, please share them in the comments. I'd love to hear it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want me to go over a specific topic, please put it in the details. As always, like and subscribe, and I will be more than happy to go over something that you might want a little bit more knowledge on, give my key points, and then maybe we can discuss it in the actual comments. So anyways, you guys have a great day, and thanks for watching.